Alright peeps, no tech tips video this week because there's something on my mind. It's been on my mind for a little while now, and it's hard for me to talk about. I'm white, that's the reason why it's hard for me to talk about, but it might be easier for me to talk about than some other white people because of the things that I've seen and the things that have happened to me in my life. This isn't a political channel, so please keep that in mind while you're watching this, that I'm not really into political debates and all that. But whenever it comes to racism, I'm afraid that I'm not going to say the right thing. So I'm going to stick to just the facts. And I'm only going to mention emotions where it's relevant to tell you about my experiences or about how I deal with things that I see in the news or I see happen to people I know and I care about. First time I learned about racism was when I was 6 years old. And I was playing in a sandbox with another boy. And I discovered that his hands were different colors on each side, and I thought that was pretty cool. He was unique. He had more stuff going on than I did. And he looked at my hands and he looked at his own, and he's like, yeah, I see that. And when he was done playing, he went home. And later that day, his mom came and told my dad that I couldn't play with him anymore. So that's the first time that I learned that somebody was a different race or whatever. And there were things that you couldn't do or say. Because before that, I had no idea. He was just another kid that I played with. He was my friend. I learned about George Floyd last week, but I didn't know he died. However, I understood the rioting. The first time I remember rioting because of something like this was because of what happened to Rodney King. But I don't normally go into the news to see what's going on because of the emotions that they stir up in me. I saw the picture and I was appalled. When the thing happened to Rodney King, I was a little bit older than the time in the sandbox with my friend. But that's when I started to see the inequality in society. And I started, to notice when people treated other people differently based off of differences. I will never know what it's like to be black. But I do know what it is like to be afraid of the police. I also know the difference between being pulled over by a cop and being pulled over by a cop when there's a black person in the car with me. For me, when a gun is pulled on me, my first instinct is to run because I feel like my life is threatened. I've had guns pulled on me by cops and by gang members. In my opinion, those cops did it because of classism and gang members did it because of racism. I based that opinion from the things that the cops and the gang members said to me while they were pointing the gun at me. And you know what was similar about those situations? They yelled. Not like a regular yell, like you're mad or whatever. It was a yell from the pit of their lungs, literally bellowing at you. It's not like they're trying to yell at you with authority. It's terror. They just want to terrify you. So like I said, my first thought was to run, but then I had to think rationally, logically. If you run from a cop, it's resisting arrest. And they can get away with murder in some cases. TV and the news taught me that. But with gangs, if you run away, it's fun for them. It's a game, it's a sport, because of the experiences I've had, which I will not go into all of those. I actually feel like this country is, in some places, a petty battleground of police versus gangs to see who will get more dominance or territory. And if you're dressed the wrong way, you're the wrong sex, or the wrong skin color, driving the wrong car, or some other random thing, if you're in a cop's or a gang's turf, you're a target. And these are things that I've seen. But we expect the cops to protect us. That's the contract we have with them. But if you cross them and survive, it means you get a criminal record. And even after years of fighting it in court system, and that's only if you can afford to fight it. And then for a black person, this is worse. They get less opportunities than other people to begin with. In this country, if you have a criminal record, you're labeled as a criminal because of that one act. And in some cases, you only get certain jobs and only be able to live in certain areas if you have a record. And that's if you're not black. If you are black, you already are limited in the neighborhoods that you can live in and the jobs you can get a lot of the time. And it was just the other day that I found out George Floyd died that night in Minnesota. And when I found this out, I cried. I cried because that for whatever he allegedly did, there's no way he deserved what happened to him. I cried because I've seen friends harassed by police because of their color. I cried because I've seen handicapped people discriminated against and not given the same opportunities. I've seen Asians, Muslims, and Hispanic people treated with less respect than whites. I've also seen this happen due to sex and sexual orientation. And in my opinion, and from my observations, this is all because of classism. I've seen people make decisions about black people, basically putting them into a lower social class than others. Classism isn't just how much money you make anymore. It's when one person thinks they're superior to another for one reason or another and treats them differently than another person because of that difference. But the path to the future should be a change in our culture, a change in the way we think. And the only way to do this is through discussion, followed by an action for change. If you find yourself confused or feel like you lack information regarding recent events especially, I recommend you reach out to someone of color and ask them about their experiences. Secondly, and this is really important, keep a cool head. Sometimes the media will give us some of the information, but not all of it. They do this to feed on our emotions, to divide us, because that gets more engagement on their platforms, more clicks, more likes, more views, more shares. Healthy discussion should never include accusations, insults, or threats. If you find yourself getting emotional, please stop and reflect on the situation and how it is affecting you. And the third thing is to be an advocate of change. If you see an injustice, report it immediately. Also do self-analysis and reflect on your own words and actions. I will speak about one thing that I saw on the news in 2014, and this is another example of when I saw it, I cried, but this I cried more about. It was about a mentally ill man that was killed by a police officer for holding a screwdriver. And I'll explain why it made me cry. I don't remember what happened in this case, but when I remember reading the article and seeing the video, and it reminded me of something that happened to me when I was a kid. I got an argument with my mom, and it was about which movie we were going to watch first that we rented from the videotape store, you know? And she changed her mind at the last second after I'd loaded the tape. And I just finished drinking my Coca-Cola. I got mad and I threw my empty bottle of Coke towards the trash can, but it landed by her feet. She got mad and retaliated by calling the cops on me. Now, a little backstory. My parents divorced long before that, about 10 years before that. And when my dad left, he said, "You're now the man of the house. You have to take care of your brothers and your mother." And so I was the one who fixed things around the house. So my mental state was trying to fall back on, why is my mom mad at me? What do I do to fix this? And I washed the dishes and I moved some laundry around, and then I grabbed a screwdriver and I was fixing a doorknob that she was complaining about. And a cop comes out of nowhere. So at that point, I didn't even know she called the cops. I gave up on watching the movies. She's going to be upset for the rest of the night. That's going to be drama. And my mind is just trying to find a way to make her happy, right? So I'm trying to screw in this doorknob she's complaining about, and there's a cop standing over my shoulder yelling at me to drop my weapon. How do you think I felt? You know, I'm a kid. Drop my weapon. What weapon? So I'm sitting there. It's like, is he talking to me? But what if I were a black man? I wouldn't even have 5 seconds to figure out, is he talking to me? And what weapon? Because I could be dead at that point. And I'm starting to get emotional, and I'm catching myself, and I'm going to calm down now. And you know what? If we're going to talk about this in the comments, be nice to each other. But that's it. I'm closing out this video because I started getting emotional, and I'm going to go take a break. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.